Right, morning people. I'm going to get started finally. Thank you for all coming. Before I start, if there's any fire alarms, then we're straight out either the access at the back or at the front there. And be wary of the steps at the side there. There's a trip hazard. Okay. Toilets are back out there again if you need that. If you need to go, just get up and leave. And can I ask you all, please, to put your mobile phones on silent. Okay. Now, this session is being recorded, so that's a first for me as well. So that's why I've got a microphone on. Normally with my booming voice, I like to just do this au natural. However, when you ask questions, can you please put your hand up, because the audio-visual guy will need to hand you a microphone so that the video recording can hear it. Normally, I like just a lot of interaction, but if it's to be recorded on the video, then we'll have to have the microphone, okay? You'll also see Tarek at the front here. He might suddenly start waving frantically. That means I'm walking out of the camera lens, which is bang on here, because I like to walk around when I'm doing the presentations, okay? So my name is Alec, for those that don't know me from Health and Safety. Most of you know me. I see a lot of familiar faces anyway. If there's any questions at all, this is a very interactive presentation. It's never been done before. I only wrote this last week as a result of different companies, different departments all submitting different road closure permits and licenses, and how we could then sort of standardise that was what was driving us forward, how to sort of make a more robust safety culture within the permit process. All right? I'm from Scotland, so if I get excited, I will talk fast and you might not understand me. So somebody please just put your hand up. You don't need the microphone, but just tell me to calm down if you don't understand me. Okay? So let's get this on. So, the objectives. What are the objectives, do you think, for having a traffic management plan? What do you think they are? Traffic plan. What's the purpose of a traffic plan? What's the whole point of it, do you think?
To have a smooth flow of traffic around the area.
Yeah, very good. What else? Safety. Safety. I think you've all covered it there. So the primary objective is to maximize the safety of the workforce that's going to be working in that area, obviously, and also for the traveling public. That's either in vehicles or on foot, if it's a pavement, sidewalk. Everybody agree on that? And as you said, the secondary objective is to keep traffic flowing as freely as possible. All right. Some of the roadworks that we've had here in the past have been quite confusing, or they've been quite blunt, where a driver has had to then figure out for themselves what they have to do. Okay, so we are now going to discuss all the way through how we can get that information across to the travelling public. So it's all about planning the plan. So safety, we've already said that that was in the primary objective. What else do you think we need to include? And I'm sorry for the audio-visual guy, he's going to have to run around. What else should we have in the plan? We've got safety, primary objective. Planning department, we could do that. That could be a consideration. We'll come back to that. So we need the needs of the pedestrians as well. We'll come back to you on that. If you've closed a pedestrian footway, they're going to have to cross the road. That has its own hazards or dangers incorporated into that. We'd all agree with that. How long is it going to take? Anyone from Saudi Building? Saudi Technical? No? Projects are here anyway. Some of the roadworks are taking a long, long time. That has a knock-on effect. Okay, so we try and minimize the time that we disrupt the road. One of the other things as well, if you are going to be opening up a road, for instance, does any other company or project also have to, or could, do similar work whilst that road is open, or certainly while that section of road is closed? So if you do a full closure on a road, what's needing to be done? What's all needing to be dug up? That would make sense. Sometimes we see a road's closed, we've had electric work done, and then 2 weeks later, the road has to be closed again for drainage. All right, so that's why we could have done that all at one closure. Okay, yes, each company might have a separate permit, but you could work that together. Holiday periods. We're in a holiday period now, aren't we? So this is a good time, for instance, for working around the school, because that's a lot less traffic than when the school kids are back in term. You all agree on that? Yeah. Public transport. Obviously, if it's on a bus route or a recognised bus route, I know we have the on-demand, but if it's a recognised bus route, then we might have to tell transportation as well, and they'll have to refigure out a route. Certainly if it's, near Tamimi, the car park there, if that was blocked, then all these big coaches that come in, they would have to be rerouted as well. And we'll come back to that. Emergency services, obviously they need to know that's part of the process which you, for those that have done licenses and permits, will know about, and we'll talk about that later on. And the overarching principle of a traffic management plan, keep it clear and simple. If it's not, it's confusing and it's counterproductive. Make sense? If we can keep it clear and simple throughout, then we've got the job done. Hopefully those primary and secondary objectives which we talked about, the safety of the workforce, travelling public, and the free flow of traffic, will be maintained. So going back to what you said was, that would consult other companies, the planning department, everything like that. That's where that ties in. Too many times I get road closure permits, road closure licenses with maps and plans, which we'll come back to, but there is nothing in the risk assessment about traffic management, the safe system of work. It's a high hazard role. So therefore, in the risk assessment, we need to have things such as unruly traffic and drivers. How do we mitigate that? If you're using heavy mechanical equipment within the work area, for instance, how do you get access in, access out? How does it maneuver about? Do you need a bit more room than what you first cordoned off? All that has to be taken into account. Ineffective traffic control equipment. So if it's not clear and simple, as we tried to point out before, then you'll cause confusion. Who's the first person they phone? Me. Which is a pain. And failure to wear personal protective equipment. Make sure that if you are going to deploy flagmen, because you don't need to all the time, but they have to be seen. They have to be effective. And very relevant now, we've got the hot hours as well. What do we do during 12 o'clock and 3 if we've got a partial road closure where there's flagmen out? Technically, they're out working, aren't they? So how do we mitigate that? How do we then, we have to have that in the risk assessment. What are we going to do to cater for a flagman working between 12 and 3? Okay? And that should be in your SSOWs that come to me. Mac Civil, anyone from Mac? Okay. They've just started, and they're having some hard times in relation to not having anything in their risk assessments. Other ones, perfect. I get a whole booklet sometimes. So the mitigation is road closure permit. Hopefully you're all familiar with that. We'll talk about that in more detail. And the road closure license. So the road closure license, we'll come back, road closure permit, sorry. If you look there, this is section 2, which is on your permit. This is what everybody ticks off. So they tick a detailed traffic control plan. It's always been there. Sometimes I just get a picture of a road with a big rectangle over it saying this is what we're doing. So I don't know what you're doing. I don't even know where it is. It's just a rectangle. Safety and warning signs, okay? It's there. I need to know what safety signs you're going to put out because it could cause confusion. Safety barriers. What kind of safety barriers are you going to be using? Simply just having a road closure with a jersey barrier in the front, which some people did. You don't see it so often now because I've hopefully been educating some of the guys that are coming in the office. But that's just like a brick wall that you've put out in the road. No mitigation for merging traffic. Hours of darkness, you've got to have light. I'll show you examples later on of where they put lights out. You all know the solar-powered beacons that are quite favoured. They only last a few hours, unfortunately. And the people put them out, see them light, away they go. 2 hours later, alas, out. Are flagmen required? And we'll talk about that later on because in some cases they might not be required. And the appropriate departments, have they been informed? How do we inform all the departments? That's the road closure licence process part. Safe passage available, and that's for all the other traffic, cyclists, pedestrians, whatever. You've got to mitigate that. So you can see that this traffic management plan I'm talking about, they've already asked us for that before in the permit. Is the work zone work to be carried out safely? So that's the traffic management plan. Is it sufficient? The whole process. And high visibility clothing, that's your PPE. With the road closure licence, this is the form that informs the appropriate departments. And there it is there, you're all familiar there. And that's the section that gets signed off. Now, who should review it first then, do you think? Who should, is there an order you think would be the best way that this gets signed off? What do you think? You think HSE first? You think the fire department should be first? Security? Okay, so we've gone through everybody. If, and I do get this, I get road closure licence with the fire service signed first. I do get it with security signed first, although security are very normally the last. It then all comes to me. What if I do not approve that plan? What if I say you're not putting that there? Or for instance, and we'll again talk about them later, diversion route is not acceptable. However, the fire department has signed it off. Once I sign it off, it doesn't go back to the fire department. So they don't know if I've made any changes. So you're right, for those that said it, it should really come to me first for approval. Once I've signed it off, that will be how it should be reflected on the actual ground. So therefore, the fire department and security will have an accurate picture of what's going to happen out there. Make sense? So there hasn't been any dictation about that. There has never been a guidance who should sign first. I'm telling you now, as a standardisation across the board, come to me first, or else it doesn't happen. Or HSE, of course. Full or partial. Full closure is required to stop traffic in both directions. I get a lot of permits where it says full closure or a partial, and I've said that's not really the case. So you can see an example there of a full closure. Nothing can go in or out. So what do you think a partial closure is then? One-way traffic? One way. So let's go back to the full closure. If you fully close that road off, you're going to have a detour, aren't you? And in days gone past, I would get a road closure permit, full closure, and just give me a map with a rectangle on it. I said, no. You need to tell me, remember it's all about keeping it clear and simple, and we have to cater for the free-flowing traffic. How do they get to the other side of that closed road? You're going to have to put a detour in. For a full closure, detour every time, I would say pretty much. Partial closure is when part of the road is closed and traffic can flow in at least one direction. So you might have a partial road closure where you can get a car round, and you would obviously use flagmen or appropriate signage. We could do that. And there's an example there of a partial road closure, exactly as you said, in one direction, but you might be able to get a car in the opposite direction as well. Traffic control will most likely be required. So which do you think is the most hazardous? Makes sense, doesn't it? Partial. Because you are going to have traffic control there. Full closure is easy. Once you've got a good diversion in, and you've got the appropriate signage, you can almost go away. Is there a requirement for a flagman? Maybe when you're setting it up, yes. But then, if it's appropriate signage, it's clear and simple, then we can stand down the flagman. But only once we've got it up and running and it's working. Good. Right, video time.
By understanding the common types of crashes, risk avoidance can be incorporated into the planning for a road work site. Experienced personnel who have worked on the road work sites for a period of time recognise that there are common types of crashes that occur at many work sites. When road workers understand the common types of crashes, they have a better understanding of the critical risks to themselves and to other workers at the site. This leads to greater awareness and allows for the experiences to be incorporated into the planning and into the completion of their work duties. The most common types of crash is caused by vehicles that don't slow down enough on the approach to the work site. By approaching too quickly, they are at greater risk of running into other vehicles that have stopped or slowed down as they approach and drive through the work site. There's also a risk of them running into workers at the entry to the work site, running into barriers or other machinery. Another common type of crash is when vehicles are told to merge, change lanes or change their path. Tight curves or a tight merge can lead to situations where a driver attempting to travel through an area too quickly or trying to find a gap misses the cones and ends up driving into the work site. Tight curves at work sites and changes of alignment are also a major risk. This means that you must be aware because there's a greater likelihood a driver will drive off the road at these points. It's important to be aware a rough or slippery surface like gravel or mud can also be a hazard for drivers and for workers. While all drivers have difficulty with slippery surfaces, motorcyclists have particular difficulty because they're travelling on 2 wheels instead of 4. You must understand and look out for the common types of crashes that can occur at a work site. One of the most important things that you can do at any site is keep a list of the near misses that occur. This is because for every near miss, there is a chance that it could have been a crash. It's also an indication that it's a dangerous place to be working. Further investigation can reveal why these near misses are happening. For example, if you see drivers approaching the end of a queue who need to brake heavily or skid as they approach, it's a sign of a high-risk location for accidents. Road workers should think about the work site from the perspective of the driver. Where are they most likely to be surprised? Where might they be likely to lose control? By understanding these things, you can plan the safest locations to position workers, thereby minimising the risk of them being involved in a crash.
Okay, good video? It's all right. Okay, so this is the Department of Transport signs that they give out to you at driving schools and other buildings as such like. And you'll see the common ones there in yellow, about 4 lines down, are the recognised roadworks signs there, which is what this sheet I've been handing out to most people that have been coming in handing me traffic management plans that require a bit of work. And you can access that from me as well. So the traffic management signs, that's your first one. That's your men at work, working on the road. Remember I said clear and simple? Let's get that information out there. They need to know what is happening. Oh. That's okay. All right, it's talking about clear and simple. Get that information out to them. What's happening? There's men working on the road, or women. Next, what do you want them to do? It might not be slow, but slow is one. It's an information sign. What is happening? What do you want me to do? That's it. Clear and simple. Avoid confusion. Another one, road closed. We get a lot of misuse of stop signs which appear at roadworks. Well, yes, you want to stop because the road's closed. The most appropriate sign is the road is closed. No entry is another one that you can use, but the road closed is a better one. But no entry, if that's all you have, I'll accept that as well. But gold standard, road closed. Keep it clear and simple. Why can't I go in that road? Because it's closed. Again, more information. Okay, if the road is closed, how do I get to the other side? Let's follow detour signs. Or, Oasis Lane has this at the moment. It's a partial road closure right in the middle of a junction. That is a priority over oncoming traffic. That means that if I drive along, I've got to stop and I've got to wait for the traffic coming in the opposite direction. So that's a sign there. It replaces a flagman, but they've had to put a sign underneath that explains what that sign means, because not everybody will know that. But that's in that Saudi government list of signs, approved signs. And the road barriers, okay? These are the two types that we have in cows predominantly, the Jersey barriers and traffic cones. Good use of traffic cones can save you a lot of time. They're very quick and easy to put out. But it's putting them out correctly so that they're efficient and get the message across, keeping it clear and simple. And flagman as well we use. So, 5 cones. That's what I keep in the back of my, or our pickup, sorry. If I ever needed to close off a lane, 5 traffic cones is all you need in the short term. If it's a longer one, then you would have to have more and have it at a longer diagonal. As you can see there, that tells people, right, I've got to merge into that lane. Then you can put your barrier behind that. It creates a safe working environment for your workforce that's in there. It just gives you that breather space. And that's, as I said, diagonal shape to encourage drivers to move over. If you're going to be there longer, a longer time period, make it longer and more secure. And that increases the worker safety. Right, so now we're going to look at examples around Coast, I believe. So there we go. Nesma? Any Nesma in the house? Oh, here we go, right. So you recognise this? What kind of closure is it then? Partial? Any different? Oh, remember the term. Why is it? Why do you think it's a full?
Because that time you have work on the bridge.
Yeah, but remember. But remember the definition. So what is it then? Technically, it's a partial, because traffic can flow in the opposite direction. Remember, I said that it's mainly only full partials that require a detour. But because you've completely closed it off here, you will need a detour for here, and that was put in. Does that make sense? So if you look here, you're absolutely right, it's Route 5. That is where the road closure was. Technically a partial, but you know what? If it had come in as a full, which I think it did, trying to remember back to when I got it, I understand why you think it was a full, because you do need a detour. Because there was detours put down near Tamimi, up towards Kindergarten West, and then along into the island that way. And that was the detour signs, for those that remember or worked on that. So hang on, just have a quick look. Is there a requirement for a flagman there? There's lots of signs there, isn't there? Is it clear and simple? It is a bit confusing, isn't it? One sign could have done that. The road closed sign. A big road closed sign, standard size, in the middle of that. Then your detour signs with a road working at the beginning. So I get informed, I can see that. However, you see the, now does this work? See the detour here? You have to have a, why is there a detour? If I'm driving from this area here up to here, why is there a detour? I would have to drive all the way up here to see that it was road closed. So it might be the case of road closed ahead, detour. How else can we get that information out? And some people have been doing it recently. Lens announcements to all the residents. Yeah, get the information out there. So yeah, you've got men at work there, but that should have been further down. I mean, if I'm driving, I'll have to drive right up to that to see that sign. Road closed. Stop. We don't need a stop. Of course you're going to stop at a road closed. Don't need that. I would have just put road closed and then a detour sign. And that was perfectly placed because I think you have, is it Pelican Lane? Off to the right-hand side of that one. But once the flagman had set that all up, there's no requirement for a flagman after that. As long as it's lit, the signs are clear, and the flagman was in place when it was set up, for the first 12 hours or so, once the public, the residents get used to it, they'll know. Another example, I think this was, I can't remember who this was. Was it Beta? No, it wasn't Beta. No, it wasn't 3D, it was, is it Sidey Tech? This was, I tell you what it was, what's the high thing? Yeah, that's where it is, but what, was it you guys? Yeah, but what do you call the cable for Wi-Fi? Internet. Fibre optic, I forgot there and there. Fibre optic. So whoever laid the fibre optic. Now, what do you think of that barrier? Yeah, absolutely, that's a full road closure there, but do you think the barriers there are sufficient? You do. You're not seeing much, are you, on approach? You've got a no entry sign, which is fine. I would have preferred a road closed, but that's absolutely fine as well. But they don't catch your attention that much. A line of traffic cones, just simple plastic traffic cones across, would have had more visual impact for a driver than very thin metal barriers with some tape on it. If you look at the other end, the road closed, I'll bring up the map so you can see what it was. That's that barrier there. That is this metal barrier here. That barrier are the Jersey barriers there. And that's fine because it was completely closed off here, so no traffic was turning. And we'll look at the advanced warning signs for that later on. So because that was fully closed, there was no requirement for a flagman there, apart from when they were setting it up. Make sure that everybody understood, then they could stand them down. This is the same. You can see that's where the Jersey barriers are there, closing it all off. So you can see we've got information signs. Whether they're in the right order is subjective. You could maybe have put, why is there a sign? I would have put the roadworks here, then I would have put detour, then I would have put no right turn sign. In that order, so I know exactly what's happening or what I can't do or what I can do. It's clear, it's simple, and drive on. They actually had, and I think, so there's a detour ahead, roadworks sign, yeah. No, they haven't. I'll show you a plan later on of what they had, and we'll discuss that. This is another example, which is what I was talking about. This is Saudi Technical, is that right? Project? Saudi building? Yeah, right. So this has been forever. But you can see what kind of closure? Partial, but it's right in the middle of a crossroads junction. So it's quite complicated, and we thought one flagman's never going to be able to do that. So we did that sign there, priority over the other traffic. So that way that it told us that cars coming from here down have the right of way. That sign tells you must give way for oncoming traffic. Okay? So that allows you to, that's traffic control. These signs here, slow down, it's too late. You're actually at the roadworks before you read it. It should have been before if that's what they wanted to do. Does that make sense? What else have they got notably? Lighting. But again, I don't know if they're the solar panel ones, I'm not sure, or battery. It's vitally important. That's right at an intersection on a main thoroughfare road. It's got to be lit. And that's that there, right by the school. So it's give way to oncoming vehicles, slow down and turn right. But again, I would have done that before. Hours of darkness. And there's an example of the solar, great idea, but I just don't think they last long. That solar panel is not, sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong one. Solar panel there just does not give enough charge to keep that illuminated for the whole time. So serious consideration if you've just purchased these or you're going to have these, make sure that they're fit for purpose. Gate 1 Alpha. Speed of that road is 90, possibly 100 kilometres an hour. Can you see the roadworks? There's closer. No lights at all. They've got the solar panel beacons, that's what they have. This was 11 o'clock at night. And you can see, this is actually a contraflow, where they've done a partial closure, all of the dual carriageway on one side, and they've directed the traffic to go down the opposing lane. So that, the other lane is a dual carriageway, it's single like that, which is perfectly acceptable. In fact, NESMA, when you close Route 5, that was one of the options I gave you. Just do a contraflow over the bridge. Easy done. That would negate having to do a diversion all the other way around. And we can look at that in the future as well. So as you can see here, I've got a road closure, I've got change of direction, and I've got a contraflow, and it wasn't illuminated. And the speed there was 90 kilometres an hour. Okay, so let's go back. This is the fibre optic that I talked about before. So there's the plan that they submitted. Okay, so you can see the detour ahead. They had a road close sign, it was actually up there, that's fine. No right turn, which is there. But they also had a 20 kilometre an hour, which I told them to remove. Why would I remove that? Why do you think I removed the speed limit? Reduced speed limit?
Because this is going to affect the whole road until the next time.
You're absolutely right. It only affects Route 5. That's closed. You can't turn right. You're told that. Why slow them down? If anything, it's safer to go at 60 kilometres an hour there because there's no junction. You've effectively closed that off. Remember what I said? Full closure is safer than a partial. So when people come to me and they put tons of signs down, remember, in future, clear and simple. Tell the public what you're doing, what you want them to do, or what you don't want them to do. It's as simple as that. Here's another one. 3D. No 3D in. Okay, this is quite a high standard. This is where they've actually gone on to the... When I do traffic management plans, because I do them for events and things like that, I do it on PowerPoint. I find that the easiest medium for me, because I'm quite good in PowerPoint. This is an actual computer aided design kind of thing that's come in. So you can see how they've drawn it right down to specific measurements of the spacing between traffic cones. That's the top end. Right down to Mac. We didn't have any Macs. So I've approved this one. However, what's missing from this? It's got the signs, Yeah, so they put that in. They put a nice picture of a car coming along. I thought it was really nice. They've got the outline of the cones there. They've got a flagman front and back. They've got lights and roadwork sign the other side for cars coming the other way. Detour. For a partial road closure, sometimes you might, but for this one, the flagmen are allowing them through on both directions, so that's fine. Yeah, you might want a slow down sign because you've got men actually directing traffic control. What else would you might potentially want? Yeah, absolutely. Could be reduced speed. Yeah, it could be. And let's take it to another level. That's for the signs, but what do I need to know? I need to know where it is. Where is that? Do you know where that is? You don't know where it is. Okay, I don't know where it is. So, the process should have two components to it. It should have a map. Doesn't need to be fancy, but something to tell me, right, where is this? Then you can do your close-up of the actual management plan. But that's not bad. I signed that off, as you can see at the bottom. I will sign off the plan. The traffic management plan will have approved my initials and a date. So if you need an extension or you need a complete renewal, you bring back the actual plans that have been signed by me. Anyone in the department will then sign off on an extension or a renewal without having to drag me back. Okay, it saves me time, saves you a lot of time, having to wait on me. So here we go. What we're talking about here now. I think that's where it was. Yeah, that's what that plan was back there. That's what that was. Right, so an overview. So what we're going to do here is we are going to close Nargis Lane. We're going to close off Nargis Lane at Route 5, here. Okay? So that's all I need. You're doing a road closure at Nargis there. Full closure. So what am I going to need? I've got the location there. If I've done a full closure, what will I need? Detour. I will need a diversion, won't I? Everybody agreed? Because if I'm driving along here, how do I get to my house here? So on the plan, on the map, sorry, that would be where you would put your diversion. So obviously the next place to go is up there, 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 and there. And I can get round. Does that make sense? In certain occasions, I might have to have what's known as a reciprocal. I might have to have detour routes to go all the way back. But by a good lens announcement or whatever, you wouldn't need to bother with that. If they're coming home and you have to go that way, they know that they will have to go back that way. So you wouldn't need to bother with doubling the signs. In certain occasions you might, but here no. So that's what I would like when it comes to my table. I can see what it is and how you've mitigated the residents and the free-flowing traffic. Then you get the detailed actual traffic management plan. So there's a close-up. What are we going to need? Road close, yeah, but first, I'm driving along. Think of it logically, a story. I'm driving along. What is happening? Men at work. Excellent. What you're supposed to do. Okay, let's talk about this. So the men at work sign there. No right turn. I've got, just using plain simple cones, a road close sign, and I've got lights here as well. Look at the primary and the secondary objective of a good traffic management plan. Maximise the safety of the workforce and travelling public, but to keep the traffic flowing. You've already got the detour in place, as shown by your map to me. You've got lighting for hours of darkness, the road closed, I know I can't turn right, and it's men at work. And I've got a barrier. What do you think? Good? So that's a full one, that's an easy one. And considerations there, speed of the road, traffic flow, and a lens announcement. Closing that off. We don't need to put slow down, we don't need to reduce speed because we've actually made that stretch of road safer by removing the junction. The only considerations are if you have to get heavy machinery into that, or if you've got workforce that's working in or around the actual barriers. Because if you think of the heavy plant machinery going into, say, the new hotel, for instance, that can sometimes take, not so much nowadays, but previously before, they would have to block a whole lane with the heavy plant going in. So it's just about keeping it clear and simple. So yeah, submit both the map and plan for approval. It keeps your guys right as well when you're handing that to them, saying this is what's happening, this is what we need. Okay, so Prosperity Road. Trench work outside P7335. Considerations, it's 40 kilometres an hour. It's a low traffic flow. I think this is in, is that the Palms? No, yeah, Palms. So, what kind of closure are we going for? Partial, trench work. So that's the map. What else do we think we need on that? Pardon me. Do you think we need much more than that? Do we need a diversion? No. That's probably about as much as I need to know. So we'll go straight into the detail then. So you can see the difference. Before, where you had a diversion, a detour, I needed to see that on the map so that I could identify the route that you were going to take them. With this one, you don't have that, but just show me where it is. So here's P7335. There's our trench. What do we need, first of all? Men at work. What's next? We could have a slow, yeah. What about, that's a road narrowing on the right, okay? Or it could be road narrowing on the left, depending which way you're coming from. Could be a giveaway sign, but we've decided that we're going to use cones as opposed to Jersey barriers. See how the cones are diagonal? That encourages the traffic to move out, and it also maximises the safety space for your workforce. We're going to put flagmen out front and back this time. That's what we've decided we were going to use. We're not there for very long, and so we'll use them. What do you think? But hours of darkness. So we then put lights out. We could then get, remember, the priority over oncoming traffic signs as well, if it was going to be a long time. If you decide that you've dug this up, because I know that certainly Saudi Technical have had problems, and it's going to be what you'd hoped to do within 12 hours is now going to take a lot longer, you need to come back, and I might ask for certain things to be added on to that traffic management plan, and I'll just put another signature. Because before, if you're just working between 8 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, no requirement for lights. But if you suddenly turn around and say, look, this is going to take longer, resubmit the plans, put the lights on, and I'll just say, right, okay, lights submitted, sign it. No issue. But if you change your traffic management plan, that alters. If you remember going back to the road safety permit, the detailed traffic management plan, that was that's number one on the, is this what you've got? And if you change that, you change the permit. Okay, so in summary, remember the objectives, primary and secondary. Protect the workforce, protect the travelling public, and keep the traffic flowing freely as best as possible. Provide a map with the plan. Let everybody know where you are going to be working, then the plan is, how are you going to be doing it? Put the signs down. It takes me 5 minutes to do something like that because I've saved all the little icons for PowerPoint, and I just drag it over, print it off, it's done. Honestly, 5 minutes it takes. Clear and simple. If there's one thing you take away from today's presentation and take it out, keep it clear and simple. Imagine yourself driving in a car coming towards it, what you need to know. What it is, what do I do, or what I don't do, and how do I get there if relevant. Ah, that's exactly there. Who needs to know? Emergency services, residents, lens announcement. Put it out there. So if there's any complaints come back, I didn't know, well, I put it out in a lens announcement. There is also the capability, for instance, if you're doing, say, that trench work in the Palms that I talked about, there is a facility of just doing targeted emails to just the Palms residents. So we can do that as well. or not us, but that has happened. For instance, you know the pedestrian crossing there, we've just sent targeted emails out to all residents of the Palms. So anything is possible like that. Last but not least, keep HSE happy. All right? So, that's the end of my presentation. So, is there any questions about anything in relation to traffic management plans? Oh, hang on, you need the microphone.
Good morning.
Yep.
Is it possible that during the course of the plan approval, the signages can be of uniform size? Because it depends upon some people make a printed, color printed size. Some people make it very, it is not photoluminescent type. So as a part of the approval process, is it possible to keep these signages which are used in coast of a
standardized signs. Yeah, you're absolutely, it's a good question. The size of the approved fixed permanent signs is 900 millimeters. However, a minimum size sign, which you could use for a temporary roadworks, is 600 millimeters. So, but if you're wanting it clear and simple, I would recommend using 900 millimeters as that sign. For certainly men at work, your main priority signs. If it's smaller signs, then you can go down to 600 millimeters. But 900 millimeters is your standard size.
Secondly, you were suggesting the use of cones. Going back by my previous experience in cows, if during the we leave it in the night, and night the weather is windy, the cones do fall off and they result in another unsafe situation. So
absolutely. I just gave you an example of a good use of cones. It's a good point. If it's inclement weather, or you know that's going to be really bad weather, or for a long time, that's when you can use alternative methods. You can put the long thin barriers, which you could put at an angle as well, or even jersey barriers at an angle for so long, as long as it's visible and lit, certainly. The plans that I showed you are not the be-all and end-all. I'm just giving you tools to put into a toolbox that you can take and then build a plan. So yeah, if it's going to be inclement weather there for a long time, use that. But I'm talking difference between big major work or when it's people that are doing the pedestrian crossings and they're only there for half an hour, you know. As long as you still put out your diagonal of cones or diagonal of whatever it may be, then it will work. Good question. Any other questions? That's good. Yeah, oh, Darren's got one.
Any time frame for submitting the road closure? For example, I have a plan to do a road closure in future, but I don't have the specific date where I'm going to close the road. Can I submit the plan?
No, you need to have the specific dates actually on the permit and the license, because that informs us of when that is actually going to be affected, that road. So yeah, we need to know the exact dates and times.
Any framework like with the approval week?
Well, if for instance, if you know that you're going to, the work permit, for instance, is valid for 30 days. So if you know you've got 2 days worth of work, but you can't tie it down to which day, then you get the permit. If you think you know which week, at least you can get a permit extends over that 3-week period or whatever.
Okay.
The license, if memory serves me correct, is normally valid for 14 days. So the permit 30, license 14.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All the information that I took here was from Saudi code for roads and roadworks, if that's where you're for referencing. That's where I took that from. But a lot of it is common sense as well, just about keeping the information out there. Any other questions? Oh, got one.
Supposing we are having a road closure for very minimal time, for example, maybe 15 minutes or maybe less than 30 minutes. In that particular case, do we have to raise a permit and a license?
Good question. If it's routine work, we are looking at in the future of having a system similar to a type approval, if it's routine work. If it's non-routine work, then I would say yes, you would have to, because even if it's only for 15 minutes, you're still doing a partial closure, which would or could affect emergency services. But if it's part of a routine maintenance, we are looking in the future that you will give me one plan. And for instance, the MAC that go around doing the pedestrian crossings, you know, the tiles, it's the same plan that they submit. Even though the map will just show me where they're doing it, but the actual plan is exactly and always the same. Diagonal cones with a flagman. Just the one flagman. And I accept that because I know that that's the plan that they will put in place at every location. I don't need to see a specific, different, detailed plan for all the locations because they're going to do exactly the same. So this is what we're trying to do in the future if you submit, or that MAC team come to me and say, this year we're going to be doing all the pedestrian crossings, this is how we're going to do it, I will sign it off for the year. If, however, they change what they're going to be doing, say for instance they're going to start working at night time, then they will have to include lights, then they'll have to come and get that changed. But that's something for the future that we're hoping to bring in for routine road closures.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi Alex, how are you? Just as a question regarding the road closure. Sometimes we have event, not particularly to be a construction work, and that might be going for a week or for so. I assume it's the same process that we need to use, or it's different?
It's the same paperwork, Emad, and what happens is I would still need a map of for instance, the routes. You know, like the cycling events, we have the routes that we have for that. The difference there is that I would probably need a detailed traffic management plan of a car park area. And that's how we've done that in the past. So whilst you don't have roadworks, you have your specific hazards with car parking or anywhere where there's convoys parked up and getting ready to move. Anywhere that it forms a particular hazard, that would need a close-up view of that. So it's similar. But you wouldn't obviously need all the roadwork signs and whatever. You might need detour signs or diversion signs for residents, by all means. But pretty much the event, it's either security or myself that do a lot of these traffic management plans anyway. Good question. Any other questions? Is that it? Come on, don't be shy. Oh, he's too shy. Okay, right. Yeah, please.
No need, I think my sound.
Oh, you need it for the video?
For a video. Regard the emergency services, I need to close the road for any emergency cases. What should I follow? Just to barricade the area and just
if you're doing an emergency closure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emergency, let's say I have, because I'm from utility.
Yeah.
So if we have any pipeline leak, so in the main road, let's say road 5 or road 1. So what shall I follow?
Yeah, that's
just to close the road with the flagman also, that's it or what?
Good question, yeah. I would say that for an emergency one, yeah, you would need a flagman straight out because it's not been planned and you need to get information across there and then. Yeah, you'd have to phone 911, look, this is the road closed, can you please inform all your services? And then normally you'd probably phone Nader or Johnson or somebody else now from our department. They'll get in touch with me as well, which has happened in the past. So when the paperwork comes in, say, right, this is what we've got, yeah, no problem. And we'll work with you with that for an emergency situation. But it's, yeah, 911, look, this is what we've got, or 922 you can phone as well. Let them know, pass that information on.
Can we use it by phone call or just by email? Because we have a 9/11 announcement, we usually keep sending, but I don't know, it's active or...
Pass on that. I know that Suleiman from the ambulance came back and said he wasn't being informed. So if it's an emergency, just, you know, phone, get that done right now, and then we can deal with the paperwork afterwards. Yeah, good point. Any other points? Questions? Comment? Feedback? No? Keep it clear and simple, very good. Okay, that's it. If you've any more questions, please feel free to email me. If you think that any of your team members, because there's a lot of guys come with plans and permits to me that are not here today, but if you feel that anybody else would benefit this training, let me know and we'll put on another course. You're the first one. We didn't know how long it was going to take or what questions you asked, but all good questions, actually. But if you think that there's more people that need to, please get in touch and we'll put something else on. Well, that's it. You're free to go. All right.